Do you want to know what really goes through an asylum officer's mind when they're reviewing your case and how to get on their good side? Well, when I was an asylum officer with the government, I discovered that certain applicants consistently made their cases stand out. There were commonalities in their written materials and also in how they handled things at the interview that made me more inclined to approve their case. And today, I'm sharing the 5 crucial things that you can do to make the asylum officer review your case more favorably, thereby increasing your chances for success. And we're starting right now. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, well, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending or maybe you're considering applying. And listen, I'd especially like to hear from you if you've been waiting for an asylum interview with USCIS for multiple years. Let me know in the comments how long you've been waiting. Okay, let me tell you something that may surprise you. Asylum officers are human. They're influenced by the same things that influence everyone else. And if you make their life easier, they'll be inclined to view you and your case more favorably. When I was an asylum officer with the government, I can tell you that nothing made me happier than when an applicant came in well prepared with their case presented in a way that made my job easier. And I noticed that there was a particular way that some applicants approached the actual asylum interview itself that just made things go more smoothly and made it easier for me to assess their case. And yeah, I believe I was more inclined to grant asylum in these cases. So here are 5 specific things that you can do to make the asylum officer love you and your case. Number 1, submit a clear, compelling declaration that tells your story efficiently. So your declaration, which is sometimes called a personal statement or a personal history, should be no more than 3 pages, single-spaced. It should focus on explaining exactly what happened to you and why you fear going back to your country. When you do this well, you help the officer understand your case before the interview, and this lets them prepare properly by doing targeted research about conditions in your country that are relevant to your specific situation. They can develop thoughtful questions ahead of time, which helps the interview move along quickly. I can't stress enough how important it is to help the officer understand your case ahead of time. Now, to that end, you'll ideally also have an asylum lawyer submit a legal brief for your case. This document applies the facts of your case to the asylum law and shows exactly how you meet each requirement for asylum eligibility. Since the asylum officer has to write up an assessment after your interview explaining their decision and do a formal legal analysis as well, they can literally copy and paste from your lawyer's legal brief. And this saves them significant time and energy, making them love you and your case. Okay, number 2, give direct answers during your interview. When the officer asks you a question, answer that exact question. Don't go off on tangents or try to redirect the conversation to things that you want to talk about. So for example, if the officer asks, how many people attacked you? Don't say, well, let me tell you about what led up to the attack. Instead, say something like, there were 3 attackers. And then just pause. If the officer wants to know more, they'll ask. Listen, nothing is more frustrating for an asylum officer than someone who talks in circles, or worse still, tries to redirect the conversation instead of answering the question being asked. Don't be that applicant. Listen carefully to every single question and give a clear, concise response that squarely addresses the exact question being asked. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. Okay, number 3 is about evidence. The way that you package your evidence can make a huge difference. Create an index showing exactly where everything is in your submission. Number all the pages sequentially. Highlight the relevant portions of any reports or articles about conditions in your country. The legal brief from your asylum lawyer should discuss the most important pieces of evidence, citing to the exact page on which it's found in your submission. Listen, I can't tell you how frustrating it was as an asylum officer when someone would just dump hundreds or even thousands of pages of country condition reports on my desk without any organization or indication of what parts exactly were relevant to their case. Don't do that to your asylum officer. Make it easy for them. And here's a pro tip on how to do that. Highlight the most important parts of the country conditions information that you submit. Your lawyer should highlight any portions that they quote from or discuss in their legal brief. This just makes the officer's job so much easier, and it makes it more likely that they'll actually see and consider the most helpful evidence and country conditions information. All right, number 4, know your case inside and out so that you can speak definitively at your interview to key aspects of your case. You don't want to get to your interview and have to keep saying, I don't remember, or I don't know when pressed for details, or worse still, give contradictory answers because you're not familiar enough with your case to avoid making errors in the stressful context of the asylum interview. Listen, study your written materials thoroughly before your interview. Memorize key dates and details. Be ready to discuss every incident that you've mentioned in your declaration. When I was an asylum officer, it was extremely frustrating when someone couldn't remember basic facts about their own case. It made me wonder whether they were telling the truth. But when someone could discuss their case in detail, responding quickly and consistently to my questions, well, it gave me confidence in their credibility. And this is crucial because if the officer thinks that you're not credible, well, they'll deny your case. Okay, the 5th and final thing that will make asylum officers love your case is focusing on the legal requirements for asylum. So listen, there are specific elements that you must establish to win asylum. Focus on those, not on trying to convince the officer that you're a great person or that you're clever or anything else. You've got to focus on addressing the asylum eligibility requirements. That's what the officer cares about. You should really get the help of an asylum lawyer to understand deeply what you've got to prove to win your case. But the basics are this. First, past persecution. Had you been harmed in the past in a way that's sufficiently severe to rise to the level of persecution, as that word, persecution, is defined under U.S. asylum law? Okay, second, future persecution. What circumstances are there that indicate that you're at real risk of being gravely harmed in the future? And third, motivation or nexus. What's motivating the bad guys to target you for harm? You've got to show that it's one of the 5 protected grounds or protected characteristics under U.S. asylum law. Those are your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or something called membership in a particular social group. Don't waste time telling the officer about things that don't help establish these requirements. Listen, I know you may want to tell your life story, but that's not what the officer needs or wants to hear. So for example, don't spend time talking about your educational background unless it's somehow relevant to why you fear persecution. Also, you shouldn't spend a bunch of time giving context about your country. Your lawyer should actually do that in their legal brief. Instead, focus on incidents where you were harmed or threatened. Explain clearly why the bad guys target you. Show how it relates to one of the 5 protected grounds that I just mentioned. Keep the focus on you. The officer wants to know about you and what's happened to you and what puts you at risk and why. Remember, asylum officers are overwhelmed with work. The more that you can do to make their job easier by submitting a clear declaration, giving direct answers, organizing your evidence properly, knowing your case thoroughly, and focusing on the legal requirements, well, the more likely they are to view you and your case favorably. These 5 things we've discussed today can make the difference between winning and losing your asylum case. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, then please call my office today. That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us right now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's truly an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.